We'll go ahead and jump in. Thank you all for coming. I know sometimes we have a little bit of a late rush after lunch, so maybe a few more people will come trickling in here in just a second. But happy to have Bruce here and introduce him from If I Need Help. And I believe your table is just right outside the door here. So if you want more information, please feel free to stop by there. Bruce is now doing this full-time as of 2015. Started this organization probably primarily due to your son in college, who's 16 now. But before that was in post-production and music, originally from Wisconsin, but moved out here, I'm sure, for the entertainment industry at some point in your past. So I won't take up any more time, introduce Bruce and have him go through his presentation. And it says 2 to 3 in the book, but it should be 2 to 3:30. And this is a relatively small group, so should be plenty of time for Q&A. So take away, Bruce.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. So I'm actually from Quincy, Mass, but I have eaten Wisconsin cheese.
Sorry.
So my wife and I started If I Need Help, like Steve said, in 2014 as a for-profit, and then we were just giving away so much stuff that we decided to become a nonprofit, so we could get donations to help supplement and grants, so we could lower the costs. A lot of our people in California, where we're from, have very underserved populations, and the state pays for safety kits. So anyway, like I said, Erin and I, she usually does presentations, but she's watching my son up north of LA, and so she sent me down here to represent. And she's like the creative genius, and I'm the technical guy. So you know, a lot of times she's making all the products and designing things. We have wearable ID and a special needs registry, and I'll kind of talk about that throughout a little bit and more towards the end. And what I do is, you know, we believe in our products, but there's other people that do similar things. And the most important thing is for your loved one to have something, you know, because you don't want them out on their own and have nothing and say, oh darn, how come we didn't put that on them before? And even if they come back, I mean, you know, most people get returned, you know, some don't. You know, if the longer it takes, the more traumatic it is. So anything that can, you know, rush people home faster with it as less trauma as possible is a really good thing. So here's my honey bear on the top left, and that's a picture of me on the top right in my previous incarnation working for Technicolor Creative Services. There's my typical daughter, Grace, and then my son that's on the spectrum, Jay, who's 16 now. Jay was severe, he had severe autism, and now with lots of therapy, he's moderately severe. So he still has, you know, sort of not, he's verbal, but he's low verbal. He can say needs, but if you said to him, where do you live, he would just say his name, he would say Jay. But if you said, I live at, and sort of prompted him, he'd say his address. Because he's had tons and tons of speech therapy, and he is used to being prompted, but if somebody finds him on the street, they're not going to know that. So that's one. And here's just sort of numbers, and you guys probably notice these things as well as I do. I took the, for DCC, I took it off of the information for this conference, so I'm trusting that that's accurate. But it's that's a lot of kids. You know, so there's so many people, you know, with Down syndrome and autism and DCC and Alzheimer's that could wander, could not be able to communicate. And for everybody, it's really important to do something beforehand, especially, you know, people that have family members and stuff that can help care for them. So there's the back of my son, kind of like an artsy sort of feel to it, being lost. He worked for free, he worked for food. drowning. And I'm learning a lot about DCC, and I understand you guys have so much experience that a lot of you guys might know as much as I do about all this stuff. And at the end, we can share stories and help each other learn some other things that I might not know. But for autism anyway, drowning is the main cause of death for people that don't get home. And kids, on the spectrum are drawn to water, especially when they're young. And a lot of times, like my son, for instance, before he knew how to swim, he would see water and he would be totally dressed and he was bolt. And my head was always on a swivel, so I could be talking to you and I would still be looking out at the corner of my eye and I'd see him like, as you guys probably know, it's always good to keep your eyes on the kids because they can take off in a heartbeat, and if you're a second slow, you might be too late. So always keep your head on that swivel for anybody that doesn't know that. The big thing about drowning and stuff like that, when I talk to police departments and stuff, I say that the one thing, if you remember one thing from my talk, it should be when you go to a house and there's someone missing, have one person talk to the family and, your partner or somebody else looking at his phone, at Google Maps, looking for bodies of water, like maybe swimming pools, lakes, anything, because, somebody could be drowning in the neighbor's pool. And that happened next to our town in Castaic, near LA. And what happened was the mom, the kid went missing. He was pretty young. He was about 5, I believe. And the mom was so upset that she couldn't answer any of the policeman's questions at her door. And so while he was saying, which direction was your child going in, the child was actually in the neighbor's pool and he was drowning. And so, I wondered, what could we do about that? And so, we added something for that in our special needs registry so that, there's something that you can give the policeman so that you're not spending a lot of time saying, well, he's 5'3", and he has blue eyes and all that kind of stuff. So it's really good to have, that kind of information beforehand, so that if God forbid something happens and you have a child that has communication issues or wandering issues, that you're prepared. So if somebody comes to the door, or if you're at Disneyland or whatever, have something that you can give to the police right away so they can start your search. And we have something. There's a lot of agencies that provide things like that. Maybe you can download something from the website, from a website, that you fill in, or you could go to our free membership or something. But it's important to get the first responders doing their searching as quickly as possible. So at home, there's a lot that can be, a lot of things can prevent people from wandering, like locks. At my house, we have double-sided locks that have mechanical input. So to get out of the house, we have to punch a code, which is very simple. But when my son's next to me, I keep it covered so he can't see where it is. And then to get in, it's a harder code, so people can't just rob our house easily. But that has really been a big thing for us, particularly when he was younger, because when my son's in the front of the house, we don't have to go, he's in the front of the house and run, because we know that the door is locked. And that's a big deal. The only door that's not locked like that is going out in the backyard, and my son doesn't have an inclination to jump over a wall at this point. And he's 16, so hopefully he won't develop that. But you never know. And you guys have been doing this a while, so I don't know if you've had experiences like we have when we change. My son's on a bunch of medications, and when we change it because he's getting bigger, all bets are off. While the meds are starting to hit, you're seeing if they work and all that. other behaviors can happen. My son stopped wandering, like he stopped being a runner. And when we raised his meds, and I didn't know that something would change along those lines. So we were at Home Depot, and I was looking at light bulbs, and he was standing next to me, and I figured that was good. You know, he's going to stand there. And all of a sudden, he bolted, and he's an athlete. You know, he's a fast 16-year-old kid, and he was full-on sprinting. And I took off sprinting after him, and I exercised some, so I'm in okay shape, but not to be like running down Home Depot the entire way. And so I caught him, and the most surprised person on the planet was him. He's like, whoa, what happened? And the people at Home Depot, you know, the other shoppers and stuff, it was kind of weird, but I could see them as I was running, and nobody even looked at me like it was a little bit unusual. You know, two people sprinting, and we say, like, stop him, and people are just like, which was a little bit weird, but I mean, that's better than people tackling me. You know, so I caught him, and I realized that because his medication had changed, his impulsivity temporarily had raised. And I wasn't prepared for that. Before that, you know, a year or two before that, I was always having my head on a swivel. And, you know, because he could always take off. So I never closed my eyes, you know, and when I was out with him, I never looked at anybody else in the eyes. I was, you know, if you were here talking to me, I'd be like looking at him, and I'd be glancing at you when I was ready to go that way, or that way. You know, so he was a handful. And when we change his meds, he is again, just hopefully for a short period of time. There's things you can do at home depending on what kind of sensory needs your child has and what kind of wandering urges. You know, you can treat your glass windows so that they don't shatter and break somebody's hand if they go, not break someone's hand, but you know, cut someone's hand if they go through. And for some kids, that's really critical. We have some friends, because you know, in our business we talk to people all the time, and then we become Facebook friends and stuff. And a lot of times when we see people on Facebook, that you just say, oh, what a perfect family, everything's so good, and then they'll just be saying, oh yeah, and so just put his hand through the window. He was in the hospital, had 60 stitches, you know, and so you realize that, you know, that people have issues. And so if that's a possibility for your family, you know, look into getting your glass treated so that if it happens, you know, he doesn't cut his arm or, you know, God forbid, an artery or something like that. Anyway, if you know, a lot of people, as I understand it, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I understand that for DCC, a lot of people have other things at the same time. Autism or medical issues and stuff along those lines. If you have therapists and BCBAs and all that kind of stuff coming to the house, trust your instincts, because you know, you guys have been around for a while. So if they say something that just doesn't make sense, you know, say, well, no, I don't want to do that. An example of that is, and I'll go back to my son because I know him very well, he has this behavior that he got from school where he's like touching people in the hip or in the groin, and we're trying to get his OCD meds together because that seems to erase it, but without it, he's totally OCD, he can't stop. And so you know, we're working on that, and the therapist said, you know, okay, we're having to do something physical as a consequence. And so it was push-ups. And this guy's also a karate teacher, and so he was like pushing on my son's back to make it harder, which, you know, if you don't do that quite right, you could hurt somebody. And so, and also my son loves karate, and I didn't want him to be overcorrected and hate karate. which is a joy of his, and or to be hurt his back. So, I said, let's do squat jumps instead. So I wasn't just going to take what they said without thinking about it. And he's been getting therapy for a long time, so, maybe at the beginning I would have, but, so I saw it. Sometimes I agree with things, and sometimes I do better because I'm the parent, and you guys are the parents, so you know your kid better than anybody else will. So if somebody says, well, this is what you should do, if you believe it, do it. And if you think, yeah, but not all the time, and we should modify this, make those suggestions. And if they're not willing to listen to you, get somebody else. Is just my suggestion. You make your own decisions. Teach compliance as early as possible. So that's behavioral techniques. And particularly with autism, if you wait, the longer you wait, the harder it is. So if you knock it out when somebody's small, you're larger than they are, so that you can physically prompt them more easily. They're not stronger than you yet or bigger than you yet. It's pretty critical if you have somebody that has compliance issues to get a handle of it as quick as you can, because we're getting older, and so are they. So that's a big deal. And also like cooking. If somebody is curious in a way that might be dangerous to them as far as fire and stuff, cook on the back burner, so that they can't put their hand in it as easily, or they can't knock a pot or a pan off, and burn themselves, have the water splash up at them. And of course, common sense applies to everything. So if it's somebody that can't be trusted near fire or an oven or whatnot, don't turn your back. And it's tough. It's tough not to turn your back because you're at your house, and you might have been working all day, and you're home. You just don't want to chill out. But we're special needs parents. We have to be tough. And you guys are all here at this convention from all over the world, so you guys know that as well as I do, that we're all very proactive or we wouldn't be in this wrong. So as far as holidays, that was like a big deal for us. And we're in California where we get all kinds of therapy and respite and stuff like that, but it took us years to figure out that we could celebrate the holidays the day before the holidays or the day after and have our therapist there. So at first we just didn't, for 14 years we had terrible holidays, because we were all, watching my son and chasing after him and doing all this stuff. And then we figured out we could, have this therapist there, celebrate it the day before, have a turkey, do the whole thing. They're doing all the behavioral stuff, and everybody's having, a relaxed time, enjoying the holidays. And of course, we figured that out right when he was like starting to mellow out, and we'd sit down and say, great, darn. But maybe if one person here hasn't had a holiday. Those are some of the things at home, at school. Do you guys still have school-age children? So advocate, 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 advocate. So, if you just let the school tell you what's going on, some things will be good, some things will be bad. Don't settle. And we had an incredible advocate when my son first started. He was in elementary school when we first got diagnosed. And we got so many services because we had this great advocate. And then she went with us to a couple of IEPs, and we learned from her. And so then she didn't want to be an advocate anymore, but we had learned, quite a bit. And so we were able to keep all the stuff he had. He gets, lots of speech, which he needs. He gets about 7 different services. And he gets, I want to say maximum hours for that, based on, there's only so many hours in a day, because there's no he, is required by law to get 3.25 hours of speech, but, it's an individual need. But the school day is only so long, and you want him to be with peers, and you want him to get the regular educational stuff. But, we have a lot of stuff because we have the advocate, and we refuse to let go. So we get 4 hours of speech a week, and we're not going to take 3.98 hours of speech. So we fight for that every time, and we're in a pretty good district, so they're not really fighting us. And you hear stories about things, and so we used to go expecting a fight. They're going to try to take this away, we're going to do that. And in our district, they've never tried to take anything away. So, I always leave, and I'm kind of like, well, we were ready for a fight. That was my Popeye, but without the arrows. Let's see what we have here. Get to know the teachers and aides, because if the teachers know that you're proactive, they're going to let you know what's going on in school more often than they won't. Because a lot of stuff can happen in school that you don't know about. And you could say, how do you do today? Oh, he did great, but what does great mean? It's in reference to other typical kids or other people in his severe class or, compared to himself. So if you know the teachers and the aides, you could ask specific questions. What does that mean? And they'll feel good about telling you because you have a good relationship with them. And most of the people, we've had good teachers, we've had bad teachers. Most of them are really trying their hardest. So they're gonna, if you're nice to them, they're gonna be, it might not affect how they'll be to your kid, but they'll give you perhaps the straight stuff. It's also, aides are really good, because then a lot of times they'll tell you stuff that they're not supposed to. And then you have to be careful not to rat them out, because then they won't tell you stuff in the future. So, that's a concern. Because you want to get as much information that's correct about the program as you can from inside. Typical kids, like my daughter is 2 years older than my son, and she would, at certain times she was in the same school, and she'd be able to tell us what was going on. And one of the things, my son was at a school that was really bad for him, and they didn't have a class that was appropriate for him. They really needed to send him to the next district. But they were holding on, and they were saying, oh, he's doing great. And so he's much more improved now, but he was pretty severe then, and he liked the principal. And the principal was also taught a math class. And so if the teacher couldn't handle him, which happened most days, because he probably knew the teacher couldn't handle him, so he was acting out, so he'd get to hang out with his friend, the principal. And so, whenever he'd act out, they'd send him to either the principal's office or the class that the principal was teaching. And so one day the principal wasn't there, and they sent him to the class the vice principal was teaching, and they just threw this severely autistic kid in a class with typical kids and the teacher teaching, and he was running and screaming around the classroom while the teacher just taught. And my daughter told us about it, and otherwise we wouldn't have found out, because we said, hey, how do you do today? And they said, oh, he did great. And so we took him out of that school like that day. He never went back to it again, and he was in a much better placement. So don't settle. Back to the first thing I said, advocate 4 times. I just said it then 2, so that's kind of like 5. But I could say it 100 times. It's very important. Parents of typical kids, other people's parents can tell you what's going on too, because their kids will tell them. So that's an important thing too. That way you find out the real. Let's go to in the car. Okay, so we have a lot of issues in the car. My son's really good in the car now. He's better in the car than anywhere else. He just loves car rides. And that's pretty cool, because I do too. And I got a car with 4-wheel drive, and we drive around fire roads and stuff. So it's entertaining for us both. At times he's had behaviors where he hits us, particularly my wife. She'd be driving and just whack, back of the head. And she's really good at staying driving and not becoming unconscious. But so we pretty much that was conquered. You know, he didn't do that anymore. The way we figured out, and I was kind of proud of this because I came up with a behavior plan, and I didn't know because he wasn't hitting me. You know, he was hitting everyone else when I wasn't around. And it turned out what he was looking for was just to connect, and like that. But he, and what we did was we ended up, and he would telegraph it. You know, he'd be like, and you know, so you could see him, he'd go like that, and if you just walk to him with your hand out to shake his hand, that was just as good to him as hitting somebody. So it took like about 2 days once we figured out to get rid of that behavior. And that was because we had so much therapy. I'd seen behaviorists, you know, I kind of knew how to come up with a plan and stuff. And so far that's my greatest triumph. But you know, at times he was bad in the car. You know, even after that, you know, for the car, I think we had him hitting the car seat. You know, 50 times the right hand, 50 times the left, left, right. Use your elbows. You know, whenever he'd do something like that, and that became a substitute behavior, and then the original behavior went away. But while it was going away, and then now he has this new behavior that when he's in it, it is very disturbing because he'll tap you on the head, tap you on the side. I don't know if you guys know this. This is an Easy-On harness. Are you guys familiar with that? It's like a bus harness, and you could buy them too as you know, just citizens, I guess you would call it. You know, just parents can go and buy this. It's called Easy-On harness, and it basically goes something like this, and it you know, zips up in the back, and then it has 4 clamps that go to the car seat tethers. So there's another part, so it goes in here and it gets on the shoulder so the kid can't move anywhere. And it's very safe. It's like a race car harness with a cute little beer on it. You know, this is like a really good thing if you have a kid that is dangerous in the car, is not going to be sitting in the car. Anything along those lines, you know, it's not, you don't have to buy like an adult-sized car seat. You know, these are really good. So it's Easy-On harness, and you know, it may not be right for you, but you might know somebody else that might be looking for this sort of thing. And what we did in our world is, if I need help, we make all these wearable ID products. We have a sewing lady. That's what she calls herself, the sewing lady. And she does stuff for us. And we thought we were done with this, and he all of a sudden started this new behavior, and so we had to break it back out, and it's too small. So she sewed this middle pin on it, and so now this works for us still, but you could buy them for adult size and all that. So there's also a buckle boss, which for some people it's like a piece of plastic. I actually have one outside that I can show you guys if anybody wants to see it. And it goes over the seatbelt part that's attached to the car, and it's got like slats. So it's a plastic thing, so you can't press the button, and it's got slats, so the seatbelt can go into it. It's called a buckle boss, and to undo it, you need to take a key or something and put it down another slat to push down the button. And so that was really effective for us for a while, but I mean, if the kid's an escape artist, he can slide under it. And then you have to get the easy what? Easy-On harness. Let's see, major safety concern.
Do you have anything that will keep a child from smacking or sibling who's sitting next to them? Probably not.
You could like get bricks and mortar and make a wall.
Yeah.
Get a former police car that has like the divider.
Really, they have dividers like that?
Yeah, some police cars have dividers in the back.
Oh,
So to keep two rear passengers separate.
So you'd have to shop for like a used police
Yeah,
car.
get a little Crown Victoria or something, and one mom can sit on one side and the other can sit on the other, and you're set. Because,
Yeah, and you could, and also just for your spare time, if there's not a lot of people on the road, you can go like 160. So yeah, now, does anybody else have any suggestions for that? I'm okay with jumping into question and answers at times. You know, actually, I'm glad that I stalled, because I did read about, there's like, I don't know what they'd be called there. There's like for the Easy On harness, I believe it is, there's an attachment that, I think it's a cord that goes from the seat belt and wraps around the arms to keep the arms like about here. So there actually is something else.
and I think, if I'm honest, suggestion, it might actually work in that
I
situation.
think you could just put that in version of the plan.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I know that one because my daughter, you know, as a sibling with attitude, my son would get her, and you know, he would like get her leg, and the way to stop him doing it, you know, in that situation is just to ignore it, you know. But she was like, "Whack," and he was like, "Whack," you know. And I told her not to do that, but she never listened to me. You know, so that, you know, the strap would be an option if you can't afford a police car. Okay, so outings. You know, so caregiver communication is really important. You know, so you know, if the mom has, you know, if mom is with the kid, you know, say, okay, I have them, and then you can like, the dad can go to the bathroom or get food or whatever, and then comes back and says, okay, I have them. You know, if you're really communicating, it's going to make it hard to get lost. But we had one of our, I guess it would be called a success story for our charity, was at a park, and it was like a round robin soccer tournament, and it was a huge park, and it was, you know, tons of games going on, one after the other, and lots of people. And so the kid that he had autism, he went missing, and the parents didn't know it because they were all picking up stuff and moving to the next field. And the mom thought the dad had the kid, and the dad thought the mom did. And so when they were both finally together after they moved to the next field, they realized that he wasn't anywhere nearby anybody. So they went running in a panic. And as they just started to run, they got a phone call. And it was somebody had seen this boy at like the playground area, because he had one of our wearable IDs on, and the telephone number was on it. So they said, I wonder if this is a joke, and he doesn't look quite like he should be here, so I'm going to call this number. And so he was returned so quickly that he didn't need, there was no trauma. I mean, the parents probably felt like their hearts were going to explode for about 30 seconds before the phone call came, and then it probably took, you know, how long would it take you to recover from that? Yeah, could be, but at least the kid didn't have that. And how long would it take you to recover if he was gone for 3 hours? You know, that would have been 5 months or ever, you know, at least in my mind. You know, it's a tough, we're in a tough place. There's no one answer. You know, but the more you have, the more you plan, the more you're ready, the better your chances of success are. So swim lessons.
Just something that I started doing when we go on outings is I always take a picture right when we get out of the car. Because if you're in a situation where you can't find a kid, the last thing you remember is what kind of shirt they were wearing.
Yeah.
So I always like to take a picture before we do anything like that. When we went to the pier, when we met my family at the pier, took a picture of the kids so that, okay, you know, this one's wearing this one, she's got special needs, she's wearing, you know, this, and her headband is this color, and her two sisters are wearing this, so it's just a grateful guideline to make sure that you always have that information.
That's a good idea. I'm going to add it to my PowerPoint and pretend I made it up.
I didn't make it up, so you feel free to take it.
Okay.
It's not mine.
Okay, let's back this up a little. So I always recommend taking a picture. So in our system, and other people have systems too, you know, there's several parts to our caregiver controlled registry, and one is a picture, and you can update it in real time too. So you could have done that and just uploaded it to it. So if something happened, you could have just, you know, emailed all the text and the picture. You know, but all is, you know, you could have it on your phone too, so you could show somebody, and then, you know, anything you can do, anything at all that's thinking forward, because sometimes you don't get a second chance. And that's not what we wanted to have happen. So also make things visible. You know, this is something, we just started this caregiver line thing. And this is like one of our shirts, and we'll probably come up with new things and maybe new text, but it basically, in huge letters, caregiver, I got this. And then some little logo we pretended is like a caregiver symbol. Maybe it is, I don't know. And I have it on the back and the front. Oh, Bruce wearing the caregiver shirt. You know, so basically the concept behind this is that if my kid has behaviors and we're out, you know, people in the community see different things. You know, they might not be from the special needs world, so they might think you're abusing your kid, or they might think that, wow, this kid is like crazy, out of control, so, you know, we have to help or something. And this shirt would basically be saying, you know, caregiver, I got this. You know, so, you know, and if somebody doesn't get that, you know, somebody goes over, what are you doing to that kid? You can like point at it instead of like, you know, stopping and getting in a conversation. You know, it won't work 100% of the time, but if it works 80% of the time, it's better than not. You know, but I'm thinking it probably would work most of the time. We also have this new line, one of our employees, and we don't have a lot of employees. This is, my wife and I do the whole thing, and we have one guy with autism that helps us make things, and a lady that speaks Spanish that calls Spanish-speaking families to help them over the phone. And this lady has two medically fragile kids that have a bunch of you know, autism-like things going on. And one of them, one of her daughters has to exercise fairly regularly, or she could have to go to the hospital, or you know, it's critical that she exercise. So, so our employee takes her to the YMCA 3 times a week, and the daughter is on the treadmill, and the mom is on an exercise bike next to the daughter. And in one instance, the mom overdid it, and so she started seeing little black dots, and she thought she was going to faint. And so she had her child, you know, here, hold my hand and don't let me go. And she was in terror that she would pass out or faint, and she opened her eyes and her child would be missing. And so she told us this, and we thought, well, what do we do on that? And so we came up with the not patented caregiver lanyard with a breakaway in case your child's trying to whip around your neck. And so what this is, and we also do our free caregiver card. If you go to our website at viteyhelp.org, you can get a caregiver card, which basically says, I'm a caregiver. If I'm unable to communicate, please look for my persons with special needs. They are usually with me and could be hiding, hurt, or in danger. And then I care for, and you can write in pencil, 1 or 2 or 3 persons with special needs. And then on the back, you can write where else they might be or other contact information. There's also a code you can put in if you have like a profile with us to get to that. And so what this is for a caregiver if they become incapacitated. A CHP officer, which is California Highway Patrol officer, recommended that we make one of these things because they said that if there's an accident or anything, the police officer is going to go through every single item in your wallet. And so this card was made for the wallet, but it works. It fits great in the caregiver, in the non-patented caregiver lanyard. And so if you put like a picture of your kid in here, along with this card, which is free and you get get chips with it. You know, these things, I think we charge like $3.60, you know, plus shipping. And I mean, you can make your own, you can get some one from somebody else, you know, but it's pretty good. So, you know, if you have a heart attack, or if you're in a car accident, or, you know, if anything happens to you and you can't advocate for your kid, something like this or something else would tell people that, you know, there's somebody I'm caring for that is now on their own. So look. And another instance that happened to that was one of our members was driving a car, and her kid with Down syndrome and autism was in the backseat, and she was T-boned, and she was hurt very badly. She's okay now, but she was unable to communicate. And so she could see what's going on, and she could see her son over there, but she couldn't tell anybody he had special needs. And so she was, you know, in terror that something bad would happen to him, but it all worked out okay. And then she wrote a Facebook post about it, and she had like 70 Facebook friends or something like that, and she wrote this article and it said, you know, get it, if I need help product now, the life you save may be your child's, you know, dramatic, yes. And so she wrote that, and then she gave it to us, and she's a really good writer. And so I was like, wow, this is impressive. And so she, you know, said, can I post it? And we said, yeah, sure. And she's like, okay, get ready. You know, and if you guys have done anything on Facebook, you know, something with 70 friends, you're thinking, yeah, okay, I'm ready, whatever. And the thing went viral, like 300,000 people saw it or something like that. Or it was shared, I forget how many times, it was crazy. And we went, my wife and I, you know, we did this we were doing this whole thing ourselves, and we were going from like, you know, 3 orders a week, you know, and we'd get one order, and we'd be like, oh my goodness, we got an order, we'd like running around doing it, and we had like 2,000 orders in a day or something like that. And so, you know, we reinvested all the revenue that came in the site, you know, so that everything would be automated the next time, and everybody got their stuff. There were no rejections or anything, which was crazy. And so now we're prepared for that kind of volume. You know, but we could have just taken the revenue, put it in the bank, and said, okay, this is for a rainy day, but we just said we're just going to reinvest the entire thing. And it was the best thing we could do, because it's, you know, if like you're a member of our site, you call up and have questions about anything on your account, you know, we can search by like 9 different things, and we can help change things, and we can do all kinds of stuff, which we couldn't do before. Everything was like copy and paste. We wrote, you know, a mailing, you know, for our shipping address. We did it by hand and stuck the stamps on, and so all that's automated now. So that's much better. Okay, so for of course, for outings, swimming lessons, back to swimming. If you can make sure your kid can swim, that could save their life. That's like so important. Social stories, if you're going out, you know, you can tell a story about, you know, Disneyland, about how when kids go to Disneyland, you know, I'm sure there's stuff you can get online about it. You know, you're holding hands, you know, children when they go to Disneyland hold hands with their mom, and, you know, just tell a story about what's expected of somebody when they're at an amusement park with their family, how they don't run, they stay with their parents. We make sure that they tell the parents when they go into the bathroom, you know, anything that could be a problem, try to get a story to tell about it. You know, if they can, you know, have them know their telephone numbers or your telephone number and address if appropriate. And you have some sort of wearable ID, you know, something from like somebody else that does what we do, something from us, a pen written on their shoulder, you know, just something so that they don't get away from you and there's no telephone number or nothing. So address potential triggers. I'm not sure what I meant when I wrote that. It's been a while since I did. I'm guessing that would probably mean if you know that your child has a particular trouble with transitions, you know, start priming him for like, okay, that was a great ride. now you're gonna go to the next ride and you're gonna walk right next to me, you're gonna be holding my hand. So anything that you know your child, anything that could be a problem coming up, try to bring it up before it does, so there's redirection and it doesn't happen. Practice meeting police, so a lot of kids are told, don't talk to strangers. Special needs kids could think that's a policeman. That's a stranger, I don't know him. And there's a lot of stories about people with special needs hiding from police during the search. And they, people walking right by them and they're hiding behind a tree. So, if you can, whenever you see a policeman for, some period of time until it's sort of second nature, walk up with your kid and say, this is my son so-and-so, and, he'd like to meet you, and, he wants to make a new friend, so that they start seeing policemen as somebody that can help them, and that if they're missing, they can walk up to, and that they can listen to, and that they can not try to take their gun, anything like that. Because, especially with, a lot of our kids, they're going to see a shiny badge, they want to touch it, they're going to see a gun, oh, that's a gun, that's like, something I've seen on TV, and try to, maybe reach it. So, if you have, a lot of interactions or some interactions with your child and police before it's an emergency, then when it is an emergency, your possibilities of a positive outcome are greatly enhanced. Jumped over one. So the future, who knows what the future holds? Do as much therapy as possible, because you're preparing for the future, and we're all hoping that our kids outlive us. So we're not always going to be there to make sure they get as much therapy to address things. We're not going to be there to know what their medications are, so if they can take their medications or advocate for themselves about that, or it's time for meds. When you're not there, if they can, shave themselves, the more that your kids can do, the better their life is going to be, in my opinion, and probably yours too, I would guess. But it's tough. We're parents, and so some things like like in my family, I'm more of a behaviorist, so I'm like, oh, you're gonna hit me, okay, you're gonna sit over there. That's it. You're just sitting there because you hit me. Whereas my wife would be, oh, I'm so sorry you hit me, because that's just, sometimes she's like that, but she's really good at it too. And I'm not just saying that because it's recorded. But we both have our strengths and weaknesses, and it's really wonderful because I'm like, don't touch something like that, and she's more nurturing. So he gets both aspects. He gets empathy and stuff more from her, and he gets safety awareness from both of us, and he gets like, you never do that even twice for me. So it's really good teamwork, and I know it seems like in the autism community, it seems like there's a lot of single parents. In DCC, just from my observation, and this is probably a very proactive group here, it seems like maybe, hopefully, there's more, two-parent relationships. I don't know, is that, do you guys notice that, like, most of your community is, like, single-parent, or any observations?
Having a special needs child is a stress on your marriage.
Yeah, sure is.
So, can't tell you what the rate is, but there certainly are people here who will tell you that they divorced over their special needs child.
Yeah, it's tough.
I've also noticed that over the last 15 years, or 12 years, there's a lot more men coming to these meetings than there were 10 years ago.
Yes, there are.
Whether they're single parents or whatever, there's just more men.
That's good.
We gotta do our part.
Yeah, we know.
My wife's at home watching
You're
TV.
the aberration.
And my wife's with my son, and that's wonderful that, men are getting more involved. And because being a caregiver is, in addition to the stresses on a relationship, being a caregiver is very, it's a hard job, as you know. When I worked at Technicolor, a lot of times I would work like 16-hour days, and everybody else would be exhausted. And they'd look at me, and I'm just like kicking butt, and they'd say, you know, how come your attitude is so good about this? And I'm like, this is nothing, this is easy, you know? I'm glad to be here for that. You know, in California, well, SSI, you know, some people, you know, you guys might know more about that than me for, you know, Social Security, people are eligible for that. In California, we have IHSS, in-home supportive services, which is basically paying you to watch your child so that they won't be institutionalized and so that you won't have to leave and, you know, you'll be making a living while you're watching your kid. You know, so a lot of people in our community out here, you know, get that, and it's very significant. You know, and it's incredibly helpful.
No, we both work. You have to, one parent has to be, you have to be at home during the day where we get the IHSS support.
No,
My wife works, but not, she's available a lot, so she can collect HSS also.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's significant.
Okay.
oh yeah, it's
Is there an income qualification for get it, or?
no.
No.
There's someone who-
So,
California.
we just take care of our kids overnight, does that qualify us for IHSS?
You
Yeah.
get paid respite, you
Well, that's what it calls
Visual
specialist
center.
and institutional.
pay, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, in Arizona, won't allow parents to collect. Now, if I have.
No, no.
and tax free.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
California.
have to file some extra paperwork, it's tax free.
I didn't.
Yeah, California is, and you don't have to hire yourself. If you're working, you hire somebody else to come in and watch
There's
your
tax
kid.
split, and there's,
Is it for, even if the kid's in school, you can still collect it?
Say
No,
any-
not at that time.
Okay, okay.
But I mean, we get, you know, I mean, a lot of people I know get, not me, like 198 hours a month or something like that, or 168 or something.
Wow.
And it is non-taxable.
And
And
is
that's
this for like a
kids that are
school
in
age
school?
kid?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
15.
No.
That's-
Well,
Mine's
after
still,
school.
mine's still, yeah.
Oh, yeah, mine's in
Right,
school,
like
sure.
child, When he's home with you,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, is that through, how is
Yeah,
that
it's
funded?
the institution.
That's funded through the, I believe it's funded through the state of California.
Okay,
And I think some other state has a similar thing, like maybe New Jersey or someplace. I think it's like,
No, yeah, lots of states have a similar.
oh, do they? Wisconsin does? Yeah, and I mean, as far as the non-taxable thing goes, it was taxable and then they retroactively changed the law.
But you have to file extra paperwork.
Yeah.
It is completely.
Oh, there's paperwork involved?
Yeah, it's significant.
$34,000 a year and having to fill out one page of paperwork, forget it. You know, it's like a big deal, you know, like and as far as like relationships that we were talking about, you know, a lot of stress in relationships are money. You know, so if you have, you know, money coming in as a caregiver, you know, that would help, you know, perhaps your relationship with your spouse, not worrying about how we're going to make, you know, pay our mortgage, because only one of you can work. Okay, so conservatorship. Anybody want to handle this one?
are you referring to taking guardianship?
Yeah, when they're past 18.
Yeah, I'm going in on July 31st, my daughter turns 18 on August 1st.
Oh, so
So, it is, we are in the state of Arizona, so I don't know where it is elsewhere. We could have done the filing ourselves, we've gone through, I think it's, I don't even know how many pages and pages of various documentation. Got it here, you gotta go into court to file it, it's an entire process. You can elect if you're, as I said, it's specific, I don't know if this is specific to Arizona cross country. We had the option to say that yes, she can drive, or no, she can't, and yes, she can drive, or no, she can't. And beyond that, what we are choosing is that at the age of 18, she effectively is an adult child, and she will be, we will still be responsible. Anything that requires legal authorization, she cannot sign on her own. That gives us still access to all of her physicians, medications, and all of that, because legally and technically, The day she turns 18, I can't get her meds, I can't go to the doctor. Well, I can go to the doctor's appointment, but the doctor has to say, hey, can I talk with your mom here? And she can say no. And then the doctor says, okay, I can't talk with mom here. And that's, you know, in our case, it's problematic, because she's snotty, it's like, no, you can't talk in front of my mom. So for us, that's pretty critical to have that ability still to maintain. So we are filing for Social Security, we'll do that about 2 weeks before her birthday. That has to be actually upon 18, she never qualified prior, so it was based on ours. So we are going through a route, we're not using an attorney, but we're using a financial route that has an attorney on staff, because I didn't want to have to do this more than once myself. I know someone who's done it on her own, and she said, yeah, we had to do this more than once to get it right. So we do have to go to court. She was served, we opted not to have her served in person. We were able to go to the person that we're working with, and she could sign the paperwork saying, yes, I know I'm going into court. Yes, I know this is happening. She has an attorney that's appointed to her. There's a court investigator. So in a few weeks, this is all going to be going, the investigator coming to the house, I think about a week before, 2 weeks before.
And what are they looking for? Like, what's the bar that they want to see?
So, you know, we don't really know. We're in a position that, so you have to have a medical statement from pediatrician or from the family doctor. And we've had the same doctor all her life, and he fully supports us taking guardianship. She is communicative, she is verbal. So on the one hand, I said, you know, is that going to work against us? Because she can sit up there and say, no, I don't want this. Good or bad, she looks atypical, if you will, and I think, unfortunately, that works in our favor.
Right.
Because people make assumptions when they see her. They're not accurate, but assumptions are made.
Right.
I do know a family that did not, whatever the reasons were, did not take guardianship, and they had some significant financial issues, medical issues, lots of things going on, and they could not access their child.
So it's almost like you're establishing a level of
Absolutely.
disability. That's,
Right.
That's what they're looking for.
Right, they're just coming in the home to make sure that everything is legitimate, that we are not mistreating her, that we're not trying to take guardianship for any ill purpose. Right, they're just saying, okay, is she in a safe place, is she in a healthy place, and is this where she should continue and will
I
thrive?
mean, you're taking away the child's individual rights now that they've become an adult.
Correct,
And before the state, all states advocate for individual rights.
correct.
And before you do that, you have to make sure that you're not just doing it because the parent has found something, you're trusting the parent.
So
Right.
the legal standard in California, don't know about other states, but in California, the legal standard for conservatorship or guardianship is clear and convincing evidence.
Disability? Clear convincing evidence of what?
Not of the disability, clear and convincing evidence of the need for guardianship.
So it's just a need-based, it's not based on the, okay, that's.
So
The
they look
individual cannot
into,
make choices
right,
for themselves.
the individual can't make the choices for themselves, can't manage their own lives, can't manage their own finances. So clear and convincing is the standard. What does that mean?
Right.
It's not as high as proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's not as low as the civil standard of preponderance of the evidence. So it's somewhere in between 50% and somewhere less than all of it. So it's, you know, it's a high standard. It's a fairly high standard, but it's not a criminal standard. So it's.
And we weren't given any direct purpose language, which would have been nice. But you know, I was told, well, court-appointed attorney, you may hear from them, you may not, you might just show up in court that day. You know, so it's they do and they don't, right? I think that when it's a graver case, I think in our situation, there's enough evidence that our daughter's not in a place to be able to self-care right now. She's not able to manage her life independently. And there could be some pretty catastrophic consequences if she were. So I think in other cases that it's probably different, but for us it's not so hard. I know the family who did not go in for guardianship, they have tried since then. The adult is now 20-ish, and a judge has said, well, adults make mistakes.
And that's, was in Arizona?
That was not in Arizona.
And we have a couple of other sessions that speak specifically to guardianship, as well as special needs trust, and resources, recordings, as well as on the website. If you want to dig in on that a little bit more. There's a lot of information specifically about making sure they don't have anything in their name financially, if you want to be able to qualify for other services. So, yeah, I appreciate that insight. Thank you, too far now.
So I have one other quick related question. My son's hospital, where I've been managing all of this medical, and I have access to all his medical records for his children, at 14 cut me off. Does anyone else have that?
Oh,
Yeah,
You
not
know,
Washington
14.
too.
It was 14. And so I was able to go in. So basically, I did the workaround, which is I just went in, I had him sign up for access to his records, and I had him give me all his codes, which he was perfectly willing to do. But I wondered if anyone else
No,
had
it's
that.
what is 14 adulthood in your state? It's age of adulthood.
No, it's
In the state of Washington
Right.
also, they do it when they're 13, I
Right,
believe.
it's about access to medical.
Yeah, so what my doctor said is
It's
that,
not about 18, it's about, it has, yeah, it's about your ability to make medical
So how do you?
They let 13 and 14 year olds make their
Some
own
states
choices.
do that. And a lot of it has to do with reproductive rights. That's what it really has to do with.
But it's access to medical records online.
Never heard
So
of it.
I'm glad that.
And I'm a healthcare attorney, that shocks me. Based on federal law, that shocks me.
He's my son.
It has to, a lot of it has to do with abortion rights and not notifying families.
Yeah, but those are very limited laws. You're talking about exclusion to the entire medical record. Until someone reaches the age of majority, they are not responsible. That's
I had
interesting.
brain cancer, so I have I needed the records, and I got cut off from everything.
That
So,
astounds me.
just to say if anyone else has that. Thank you.
the library does that too, I can't access my daughter's libraries either.
Now I'm depressed. So I have one more question about the conservatorship. Because there's so much involved that you have to start really early. Like, how early did you start?
So we didn't start as early as we should have because we are paying through our nose by choice to have this done for us as opposed to filing on our own. It was somewhat expedited because they recognized the time frame. We only went in, I think, at the beginning of this month. We could have started this 6 months earlier.
Yeah.
And certainly if you're gonna do this on your own, you want to give yourself at least a solid 6 months. So we had to get a court date, and we got lucky that the court date is the day before the birthday. Given the courthouse that we're gonna go to, they do it on, I think it's a Tuesday, and so they booked out, and the week we went in, we said, okay, well, we just booked for the 23rd, so if we're lucky, we're gonna get this in for the 31st. And she turns 18 on the 1st, so we really got lucky getting in before she actually turns 18.
Yeah, when you said we're going in on the 31st and she turns on, I'm like,
Yeah, it's gonna get close, yeah. I mean, we did not do this in a timely manner, and that's unfortunately kind of how we operate.
and I think, I'm going to move on, but this seems like such a critical thing for a lot of our kids. My kid, he's not going to be able to advocate for himself, for, if ever, maybe he will, I don't know, but, and I know so many other people that are as proactive as we all are, that don't do it, and I know, I've heard stories, like terrible stories about, one guy peeing in his front yard, and the parents he has a disability, come on inside with us. No, he's not, he can't come inside with you. He has to go to jail. But if they've been conserved, I understand. The police would have had to listen to the parent and interact with them. And it was a hideous story. Okay, so now like everybody's stories.
It's a great point, because you mentioned earlier, introducing them early and often to officers. I think I was in another session on safety where they mentioned specifically notifying your local law enforcement about the fact that your child has a special need, especially if they don't present as somebody who is special needs. So when they're responding to emergency situations, they know that your child is dealing with something that is a typical response, like, might not be the right response.
Especially for like delays in responding and
Yeah.
saying no as a default and not understanding instructions.
Yeah.
Medical emergencies, Arizona has a registry, if you will, that you can contact and complete some paperwork, so that in a digital file, if the number comes up, there'll be flags saying, hey, there's more in this house than just typical. My father-in-law's a diabetic, and so he's got his name flagged, so to say, so that if they were to come to the home, so it can be for medical, I mean, Arizona's it's a fairly broad base, but, you know, I suspect we would flag, she likes to come on one.
Yeah, I mean, the person I grew up was actually an adult in his 60s, and he was my friend's wife's uncle, and his parents weren't around anymore, so she didn't, and he wasn't conserved, and they didn't know anything about anything. They were just like, oh, we'll take him, sure. And so now I understand he's conserved to them, and they get IHSS and all that kind of stuff. You know, but he went to like the worst prison in LA. It was a Friday, and he couldn't get him out till Monday, and he's nonverbal and all that kind of stuff. So now insurance, I'm a little blurred about what I was going to talk about, was insurance is one of the things, and I don't really know much about insurance. So I mean, I know in California, there's a Medi-Cal waiver, and I think there probably is something similar in other states. So my son gets benefits based on his income and not ours. And so he qualifies for Medi-Cal insurance, and he gets all his therapy through that.
Well, in California, your child can be on Medi-Cal as a disabled person under 18, and it's a secondary insurance at this point because the primary is your child.
Yeah, our daughter has Medicare secondary.
Yeah.
Medicare.
Medi-Cal.
Yeah,
Medi-Cal.
Yeah, Medi-Cal.
Which is, I don't know, is Medi-Cal Medicaid
Yes.
for California?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he has Medi-Cal, which is terrific because it does cover
Everything else.
It does cover everything else, but it doesn't cover, it covers a lot of, orthodontia, not orthodontia, dentistry. They wanted, he could not do dentistry work. He had impacted teeth that were going the wrong way and had to be removed. And the doctor who was going to do the work said, okay, well, we'll just have an anesthesiologist come in. It'll be, oh, I don't know, just submit it to your insurance. They'll give you the bill. It's like, how much is it? And they said, $1,500. And they're like, just you pay it and submit it. I'm like, I pay it, but they don't pay it. And I said, oh, no, they might. And I called and they said they wouldn't. So Medi-Cal took care of it. Medi-Cal paid the whole thing.
But it's different in different states. My
It's
son
different in
doesn't.
different states.
Ohio, Medicaid is strictly financial based.
Really?
Waiver lists are long.
Yeah.
Every Medicaid program is state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sadly, it's not applicable everywhere, but in that case, it was good coverage.
California is probably one of the better places, I'm guessing, for a lot of this stuff. My son, because when I left the industry I worked in before, and now I'm on Cover California, and so you get to choose different things, and so my son is just straight Medi-Cal, and so it's not secondary for him. And he gets all his therapy through it, and it's way better than, and I love the regional centers, but that ADA is way better through Medi-Cal because they're cool with it going until he's 22 if he's getting benefit. Whereas the regional center was saying, oh, there's only scientific evidence that it works for 2 years, and which isn't true. My son is improving drastically in his second go around of ADA as a teenager. I mean, his life is, and quality of life is so drastically improved by getting more therapy. He's doing stuff that he would never done, and I'll bring home safety. He's not running from us. He's entertaining himself in his room. He's brushing his teeth. Now he learned how to tie his shoes. Before he started back up, all he could do at home was blow bubbles. He had no other way to entertain himself. And when he would just go into his room and go into our room and watch TV when he was getting tired, and he wouldn't be able to say what was on the TV, we'd just guess. And then when he fell asleep, we'd wake him up and walk him to his room, and that was his life. And now he loves being in his room. He's got educational things on the iPad he does, and it was the ABA. It really kicked in, and we were really scared because you hear the stories. A lot of kids, you got to hit them young, you got to hit them fast, you got to hit them hard, because when they're teenagers, they're going to say no. And I'm sure there are kids like that, but my son loves it. He's a 16-year-old guy, and he likes girls, and a lot of his therapists are like, 21-year-old recent college graduates, and so, it's like a big deal for him, and he listens to what they say, and his life is better, and it'll be better after I'm gone because of it, So I can't speak highly enough about therapy, and medication. People have, medication is kind of like, and this is safety too, medication is kind of a political subject, because some people are, don't medicate kids, and some people are, you have to medicate kids. And I was the first group. When my kid was young, I was like, I'm not going to drug my child. And he was a danger. He would go into his room, and he would jump up on his dresser and do a flip at like 5 years old onto his bed, and so we had to move that out into the hallway, and he was so uncontrollable at about 7. He was running, screaming up and down our house until 6 in the morning every single night, and we were all exhausted, and I don't know if you guys have been, some of you probably have had similar experience, but when somebody's screaming all night like that, everything becomes an argument with the rest of the family. My wife would be like, can you pass the salt? And I'd be like, what? And she'd say, pass the salt. And I'd be, what? And she'd say, pass the salt. And I'd be like, get it yourself. So, we were at the end of our rope. And I realized he was going to have to be institutionalized very soon if we didn't do something desperate. So I said, okay, let's just try meds. And meds, for those of you who have kids that are on them, are a bit hit or miss, for a lot of our kids. Getting the right dose, getting the right kind, because there's like 6 different kinds that do the right thing, but only one will work for your kid. So finding the right thing out. And the first thing we tried, which was Risperidon, one night he's running and screaming until 5 in the morning, doing dangerous stuff, and we're all a wreck. And the next night he went to bed at 8 o'clock, and he's been doing that for over 9 years. Except for maybe twice a month or something, he'll stay up all night, but he's controllable. He'll just be kind of like in his room, so I could like sleep on the couch. So if he goes to the kitchen, I can kind of like run out.
The example I have is my son would go to school and he would hear a cricket, and he'd look at the cricket, and then he'd hear the siren go down 2 miles away, and he'd be like looking to see where that siren was, and sort of crack their knuckles and be like over there. And it was absolute chaos for his perception. And once he got speed, methylphenidate, whatever, allowed him, it works the opposite for him, it closed in his vision and brought him back to the teacher. For a while, we're like, oh, does that really work? I don't know. And then, one day we forget, and they call us up and say, what's going on? And you're like, oops, I forgot. So, yeah, you get that call. And then the other thing we noticed is he got bigger, and then the drugs didn't work. So you had to, for sure, you have to have the right drugs, you have to have the right psychiatrist or psychologist to prescribe them. But as they change, their bodies change, and you have to revisit it.
Yeah, and it also, my son's tapping behavior, I think I mentioned, we were experimenting, we're finding out like some of his OCD medication, if it gets increased, all of a sudden this behavior that we cannot stop, where he's tapping and trying to get you growing and all kinds of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm in a recorded meeting. Why is this going to make a noise? I told him to. Where was I going before I got involved?
So medication was happening.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, we had this great behavior plan, and this was happening in the community and all over the place to total strangers, you know, anyone. You know, you could walk out this thing, you get you. And so we raised his meds, and it went away, gone. And we don't have quite the right amount, so after, you know, like 4 hours, it kind of started coming back. And so like, oh, maybe he needs to have it for 3 hours, maybe he needs more, you know, so we're still figuring stuff out. And we didn't give it to him, like, we ran out, and I was here, so, you know, he's over at the house right now, tapping my wife like a son of a gun. But I'm gonna stop at the drugstore on the way home. You know, so, you know, the medication made it so that he could follow the behavior plan. He couldn't even, we had a good behavior plan, but we didn't even know it was good until the medication took the edge off his OCD behavior. And it's also got unintended consequences. You know, when he's on it, he's less likely to run. You know, he's more compliant. His OCD is such that, you know, he comes downstairs, there's 2 bar stools at the counter. They have to go pushed all the way to the side. My wife's pocketbook has to be in this direction, the keys have to be in that part. You know, so he comes down, the TV remote has to be there. And so, you know, he just comes down and do that, push the chairs, do this, and then he gets his drink of water. And now, when he's on it, he just comes downstairs and gets a drink of water.
Yeah, I think I don't know how different ages, ours is week 13 in a few weeks, but we learned pretty early on, if we're going to do a med change, we try to do it on a holiday or a weekend, where we have a couple of days to see what's going to happen.
Right.
On a Wednesday.
Oh, I see, we do it actually, we do it at school, so they can, they can deal with it.
Okay, I need to shake your hands. Me too. Now, because some of this stuff takes a month to find out.
Yeah.
You know, and you can misinterpret, you know, and like Zoloft, for instance, my son is on a small amount of Zoloft, and it takes, as my son's psychiatrist, who's incredible, said, you know, with him, he's very sensitive to medication, you know, even then, to really see what's going on, it might take a month. And if you, and so I'm thinking, you know, this guy is so smart, he's so incredible. In case he sees this, Dr. Robert Sutter, you know, he'll listen to you, and I mean, you guys are really proactive, and I'm sure, you know, you kind of know what your psychiatrist is going to say about certain issues and stuff like that. You know, he'll listen, he'll stay there for hours listening to you, and then you think he's going to go this way, and he'll say something else, and you go, wow, this is like an example of a guy that went to college and paid attention. You know, and he is just so awesome. And so he was saying, like my son, you know, if you raise the Zoloft, you give it to him in the morning, and he gets, you know, he was too excited. And, you know, so, and then he didn't sleep because he was just so hyped up from the Zoloft raising. And so what the doctor said was it was the opposite. It was actually, we say he was so, now I gotta try to think of it because it was like he couldn't sleep at night because the Zoloft calmed him down. So he was actually, would have been calmer during the day, but he was actually exhausted because he hadn't slept that night. So it was like a vicious cycle. And so, you know, if you know, my thing is like, oh, it's not working, stop. But his is like, you know, give it to him at night, and then he'll sleep at night, and he won't be wild during the day, so because he's had his rest. You know, and he always says stuff like that, and it's just, you know, we're really fortunate to have a good guy. And because you think for doctors, you know, that, oh, you know, they all do the same thing. And to some degree they do, but some guys do it way, way better than others. You know, so find a doctor you trust too. Back on, you know, like school, or advocate. You know, if you have a psychiatrist, make sure he's really a good guy.
And actually, one of the pieces of advice I got was try to find a young psychiatrist because these people may be the only contact your child can look up to, because they don't want to talk to the parent, and you want them to not retire on you or go away. So if you can find a younger one that's going to be around for a while, it's quite useful as a third relationship that's strong and
It's a good idea.
There are companies that genetically can tell you what drugs will work better for your child before you would try them. There's a company in Cincinnati that works strictly with mental health drugs, but that is going to be expanding, so maybe 10 years from now, before you try anything, that will be tested. But there, in the mental health arena, there are companies that already do that and can give you a better, you have 6 choices, let's say. We recommend you try this one first because clinical trials have shown this stuff. For people who don't want to go through the experiment, there are companies that do that.
Well, this psychiatrist has that kind of knowledge too. So he'll say, here's 6 medications, this one does this one does that one does that. So, I mean, is it sort of like that, or is it like a...
It's doing it based on your genetics and your predisposition to certain drugs working better for you. It's kind of fascinating. It's like the future of pharmacology based on your genetics.
Well, I'm going to look into that, because I don't know anything about that.
Precision
The
medicine.
name of the company is not coming to me right now, but it's now focused on mental health.
we did that. It was very, sorry.
Okay, you're talking about.
I was going to say it was quite expensive, but the expense, they said if your insurance doesn't cover it, we'll lower it down by 10%, which made it manageable. And then they basically said, it might, like you said, it might be 6 medications and knocked out 3 of them as less likely to work.
Well, that's a good thing to know about. It's just such a, I just wish there was like one thing. Oh, here's the magic pill. Yeah, you had a question? Or
Yeah, I wanted to switch gears just a little bit because I was interested in the wearable ID. So like outside of like microchipping our kids, what,
You can do that.
or tattooing, right? Like, are there,
They have temporary fixes.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought about, I didn't know that, but I thought that through, like maybe that's something you can do. Like, is there a national database?
yeah,
Or-
well, ours.
I mean, other, like, so there's nothing existing at this point, right, where you can enter,
No, there is.
well, I mean, before you created that, is I guess is what I was saying. Is there like, there's no national, all the police can look into this one database and say, there's an
No,
enter
that's-
special needs, I don't know, how do you?
Well, we're working towards that, but
Okay.
getting all the police on one page is probably never going to happen because, they all have different
They certainly
things
can
and
put
best
fingerprints in it and
things.
find somebody, I mean, they're doing it for criminals, I was just curious if, so what would you suggest if for
I would
wearable ID?
I would
What do you-
suggest, I happen to know a lot about wearable ID. I would suggest doing as much as you can. My charity, we make somewhere around 60 different types of wearable ID, if I need help.org. We have locking bracelets. We have custom shoe tags that have a QR code for lots of information and also text it, for diagnosis and telephone number and mom's name or whatever. We have ID cards, we have patches, we have temporary tattoos with custom information on it too. We have pins, clips. We have a lot of stuff. We have this new caregiver line. We have, and there's other people that do stuff. I think we have more options than anyone that I know of. But Medical Alert has, I think maybe a necklace and a bracelet or something. And our stuff, so we have lots of stuff. We also have, custom alerts. That you can put on your car, you can change the text. You can, we don't have a DCC one, but we might make one. Why not? And you can put whatever you would want for your loved ones, on. We have window frames and bumper stickers. And we also have like keychains with custom stuff. And my wife is creating all the stuff, and she's like really good at it. And she exhausts me because I have to make it work. And so I'll be like, wow, I got that in there now. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, look what I came up with, honey. And I'm like, but there's a lot out there. And the more you can have, the better, you know, I mean, some people have GPS and our stuff, you know, because GPS stuff is Angel Sense, you know, we're about to put on our website a discount for Angel Sense, we just got a deal with them. You know, that's one of the more popular GPSs, you know, but our stuff doesn't need batteries, it's sort of set it and forget it. You know, and that's important because like my son has a patch on every shirt, or somebody has a shoe tag on every shoe. So that if you have that stuff beforehand, you know, and your kid goes missing, you won't have like, oh my God, how come I didn't have this thing on? You know, it's just always on. You know, and something like ours, it's a one-time cost that's very low. Our stuff is like $10 or $15, you know, for almost everything. You know, so, and then it's there. You know, you don't have to worry about it. We also have 3 parts of a caregiver controlled special needs registry. The first part, that's kind of what you would see if you scan it. And that's my imaginary daughter, Amanda, my Photoshop daughter, Amanda. And so, you know, we have the public profile. If you were to scan a QR code on any of our stuff, it would go to this page. And you would put whatever you want someone in the community to know to help your loved one. And so we say, you know, don't put things that are too private, just put, you know, whatever you want. And people put just the name, and people also put like every single medication in their entire medical history. It's up to the parent to put what they want, and it can be changed in real time with the pictures and all that. We also have our stuff when it's scanned, people can type it in, so you don't have to even scan it. You know, it says scan or go to, you know, and so here's kind of like printed out the whole thing. You have the public profile on the top. We have our emergency question and answers there, which is totally confidential, and that's the type of thing that you would see if a policeman came to your door, you know, or you lost your kid at Disneyland or something, so that you could, you know, say it has, you know, all the types of questions a policeman would ask. My friend who's a LAPD sergeant helped put that together. He's got a kid on the spectrum. And so anything you don't like, you just leave out and it disappears like magic. You know, so that you could use ours and it's free, or you can go online and you can find some form at Autism Speaks website or something and download it and fill it out by hand, you know, whatever you're comfortable with. But stuff like this is really critical to go with the wearable ID. We also have something that we don't even have a slide for yet. It's so new. It's the Neighbor Alert, which is a poster that you can print out beforehand and hand to your neighbors, so that if your kids running around in the neighborhood, they know how to get you and know what to expect, and know that if you say, hey, I had a cheeseburger, I'll run into your house, or whatever. We also have a new thing coming out that is so new it doesn't even exist yet. They're called a Nanny Alert, which is I'm excited about because it's basically what you give to a babysitter or a respite worker. You know, the Band-Aids are under the sink, he goes to bed at this time, all that kind of stuff, so that, you know, when you're waiting for your babysitter to come or a respite worker for the first time, you know, you don't have to, like, you know, you get there and you get to the movies in 8 minutes and you don't have time to tell anybody. You just, you know, say, this is him, you introduce him, here's how to help him, you know, so that's in the very short term works on our site. And then here's like some more examples of our stuff. This is what the state of California and the Inland Regional Center pay for. They supply their consumers with that have need. They get to starter kit up at the top and their choice of 1 of 5 safety kits. And so these, my son has the patches. How do you make a dog? Locking bracelets, shoe tags, ID cards with all custom information, a bumper sticker, and, you know, we have different combinations. Somebody that's you know, higher functioning, that, you know, perhaps you know, their children, you know, they just have a regular dog tag and an ID card for their wallet because, you know, they need to be more subtle. My kid has, if he's away from his caregiver, I want everybody to know, you know, because he's never supposed to be away from an aide or a caregiver. You know, so he has a patch on every shirt, and he's totally cool with that. And he's got a lot going on inside that he can't share. But you say to him, so Jay, what do you do if you get lost? And he's like, scan. You know, he's not real verbal. You know, but you know, he knows it, and, you know, and a lot of the kids, it's sort of surprising to me because you know, especially when you just start this, you know, they're so, you know, a lot of people keep their verbal emotions in, and it's been kind of shocking because a lot of the kids realize what this is and how it can help them. And so it's a lot of our people, the kids themselves, their anxiety level goes down because they realize if they get lost, there is a way for them to get home. And, you know, and we've experienced that with a lot of people that would be considered very severe, and you would think, oh, they're a 2-year-old and they don't know what's going on, but they really do. You know, and it's, you know, it's kind of humbling to see, you know, what the human spirit, you know, even if it's locked inside, they really are aware of what's going on. So we have tons of wearable IDs. Other people, you can do a Google search, you can look at our stuff. You know, you can do what you want. And you know, I believe heavily in our stuff, but, you know, I mean, there's something for everybody. I have no desire to corner a market. I just want people to have, you know, especially as a nonprofit, you know, I have to try to make as much money as I can. You know, so I want people to find what works for them. And if they have two things, some people have ours and somebody else's, if that works for them, fantastic. You know, I just want people to be prepared, you know, and because it's just terrifying to me that somebody would get away and have no information on how to get back to their family. And, you know, so, you know, use our stuff. I can give you some, like, free memberships and free ID cards or something like that out in the front there when we're done. You know, or, you know, go to somebody else's place. Just please do something. If you have a child that has needs like that. A lot of children or people are high functioning, but if they get put into the wrong place, all of a sudden they can't talk. And you might not know that they can't talk until they're in a desperate situation. You know, and so then that's good to have like an ID card for the wallet or something that they can hand somebody. And the person that recommended that to us was a girl that had anxiety, and people used to, she would start wigging out, and somebody would come over and they'd be like, what's wrong? And she would get hit and all kinds of misinterpretation of her behaviors. And so she said, you know, she told us that, so we came up with this ID card, and most of the stuff we came up with, a lot of it is recommended by members. And so the first time she started having an anxiety attack, almost immediately after she got the thing, she's like, oh no, it's happening again. And so somebody came up in a position of authority, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, go get it. And so she gave it to him, and he's like, oh, okay. And it said, you know, how to help her, which was, you know, basically, you know, don't touch me, have me sit down. She's very high functioning, she can drive a car and all that. But when she had anxiety, she couldn't advocate for herself at all. And it said, you know, tell me a joke. You know, so you know, people, you know, I guess people have told me just really bad jokes. You know, they're like, I'm not even gonna go there. So anyway, that's all our time. That's my son, Jay. Thank you very much.